Hello, hello, hello. Look where we are. Welcome to episode 29 in person in Vancouver. Welcome, Ilya.
Yeah, we don't know if it's sunny yet.
It is, we can see.
It is.
And the forecast is awesome. It's summer, so yeah.
Yeah, I think most of people will be listening, not watching. So for those of you who are your headphones, we are standing next to each other and recording.
With two microphones.
Two microphones, yeah.
Sometimes I'm speaking here. That doesn't matter, I guess.
Oh boy, you also made it a bit more complicated for post-production.
Right. Yeah. So why are we here, Ilya?
So we have our first annual all hands.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Most of who are listening, I guess, are probably pretty familiar with all hands and all that. So yeah, this is our first ever annual company all hands.
Yeah, so Arnab, what is all hands?
All hands is like all of us are together, usually.
All employees of the company.
All employees of the company, yes. And they're together, they probably do some presentations, try to motivate each other, give some updates on what's happening. Yeah.
Roadmap review.
Yep.
Yeah. With team building exercises.
Yes, we are doing some this weekend and next weekend.
Yeah, so what's our team building plan for these 13 days?
Yeah, so we have first one coming up this weekend. So we're recording on July 27th on a Thursday. On Friday, we are going over to Vancouver Island. So we're going to do a bit of like driving, start in Victoria on the down south, Bouchard Gardens and stuff. And then drive up to Nanaimo, stay there a couple of days, do some paddle boarding and hiking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then come back, work. Quite a lot, strategy planning, roadmap review, goal planning, I guess.
Yeah, financial planning.
We'll have our offsite.
Yeah, I think we need to define company values.
Yes.
Yeah. And principles, right?
Yes.
Because like when if not now.
Right.
Like by the time we have one more person, it will be too late.
Yeah. Well, that's actually kind of true, but okay, yeah. And then next weekend we'll be doing a hike here. We'll let you know next week more about that.
Yeah, that's cool.
So, welcome to our first offsite. Yeah, all of you are with us.
Cool. So, in one of the previous episodes, we said we should improve at least one thing for every episode.
Yeah.
So I'll start. Well, you can gather your thoughts as to what we are doing for this episode.
Okay.
Because I think we should voice it so that we commit to it. I've started doing short video clips.
Yeah.
Starting, I think, 2 episodes ago. And I think we are getting...
to mine.
Yeah, we are getting about 1,000 views on Instagram, probably about 100 views on YouTube Shorts, a couple hundred on TikTok. Yeah, I had to install TikTok. Man, their algorithm is awesome.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm feeling younger now. Also LinkedIn, of course. So we are doing those videos. So now, from now on, everything that we say, we should say in a way that can be cleanly cut into a 1 minute bit of insights. So we can post it on LinkedIn and write something very insightful and finish with thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what
are my thoughts?
What's your speech? Like every thought, 1 minute max. Ideally it's 15 seconds because I think we'll have younger listeners as well. They can't keep attention for more than 15 seconds.
Actually, more like 5 seconds. I guess our faces have to be like appealing for younger audiences. Otherwise, who's going to listen to two like middle-aged men talking? Yeah.
Oh, we should apply some filters.
Yeah. No, I think that's actually makes sense. But on a more serious note, you know how...
I think we've been serious so far about everything.
You know how I was talking about like some people, the social persona they put on, it over time changes them.
Yeah.
And
Not us though.
what?
Not us.
Not us, okay.
Very different.
But I think if you take this too far,
Yeah.
right? Like try to do everything in a real worthy way,
Yeah.
it is going to change you.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
I definitely noticed that when I was doing the blog on Instagram, and might sound strange to our American listeners or even European, but in Russia, Instagram somehow took off as a blogging platform. So it became like a lot of people did text blogs,
Right.
Which was like 2,000 characters, I think it was.
Right.
The character limit, and the picture was just there because Instagram required it.
Right.
Right.
But it would be something related to it, but not a like real picture
Very
of
often
it.
it would be just people would pay a professional photographer, take whatever 50 shots
Right.
all over the place,
Right.
and then they just use those randomly. So it would be like somebody with a cup of coffee talking about whatever, some professional stuff.
Right.
Like if you look at their feed, there is nothing in the pictures that tells you what this post is about. It's just them, right? So when I did this, I realized that I started writing in a way to fit in that. I think it was 2,200 characters, but I often write longer. So then I had to take like screenshots of those like extra words, put them into the what do you call it, the carousel, like the 9 additional photos on Instagram.
Yeah.
It was just so bizarre to like plan your writing for the medium.
Yeah.
And,
image sharing medium.
yeah, for image sharing medium.
Yeah.
So even now, like you're doing an audio medium,
Yeah.
and also video on YouTube, but it's like a long form conversation medium.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you have to adjust to 1 minute reels, you know, which for those of you who didn't get it, it was a joke. I mean, it was a joke that we will have to do everything in a real worthy way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I think once you start doing those, it's actually very hard to keep your mind off.
Yes.
It's like if you're a photographer, you walk, anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And
You see photographs.
You're applying the frame, the photographs.
Yeah.
And I think people who do like TikTok and stuff like that,
Yeah.
they always think, oh, is it like worthy for a video?
Yeah.
And actually, I was in that camp a little bit more with pictures and also with Instagram stories.
Right.
I don't do that anymore because of that reason, actually.
Right.
It's because you start seeing the world from the view of like, are people going to like it?
Right.
And it's a very miserable way to live life.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that thing was a real worthy.
All right. So
What are you improving? I know you're
Yeah.
shaved, so you can't use this device.
I got a haircut, shave, so yeah, I'm continuing that. The thing that I am trying to do this episode is because we are both together physically here. We're recording with 2 microphones. People on YouTube can see it. And I, apparently, thanks to some feedback from Ilya, turns out I'm a very active listener. So what that means is like when he's saying things like we have to make real worthy things, I would be like nodding my head, but beyond nodding my head, I would be saying like, oh yeah, right, things like that. And today, because we're recording together, my audio will bleed over into his mic while he's speaking. That's going to give him a headache while post-processing and editing it. So I'm going to try and change my behavior just for this one episode and not say things. We'll see.
You see the offset is already starting to pay off.
Yeah.
Because like it was hard feedback. Right?
Yeah. By the way, we didn't do one improvement that we said we will do now on, which is about 8 minutes into our episode now. Let's tell our listeners what this episode is about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we want to just chit chat, which we've already done.
Yeah.
So that part is checked.
Yeah.
We will give a bit of an update on just a couple of things that are happening.
Yeah.
Which I think we already partially done too.
Yeah.
We did want to introduce our
Other employee.
our CDO. Right?
CDO, yeah.
CDO, right?
Chief Dog Officer.
Yes. And we also want to talk about subscriptions.
Yeah.
Because I think subscriptions is a very nasty topic.
Yeah.
But it's also a very interesting topic. Because the whole world, software now seems to be converging with subscriptions.
Yeah.
And we are in subscription pandemic right now.
Yeah.
So we will talk about that. And I don't think we'll have time to talk about anything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And before we get started on subscriptions, what is our revenue making model for our app?
Subscriptions.
Okay. All right, let's get started now.
We also consider micropayments.
Yeah, we may have both. Yeah, we'll see.
Maybe not at launch. Subscriptions are just easier to do. People understand subscriptions.
Yeah.
But also, again, we're starting to jump topics.
Yes. Yeah. But we'll get to it. Yeah.
We'll
okay.
get to it. We should not forget to mention that person who cancels subscriptions right after they sign up them. Right. Which is probably like pretty much everybody.
Right. Okay. So our setup. Yeah.
Yeah. So you already said that we are in the same space. We are in your is it the office? Is it what you call it?
Yeah. You can see how I'm trying to drink even water very silently.
Yeah, thank you. No slurps bleeding out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have two mics next to each other. We're very close to each other, basically shoulder to shoulder. We record this with two cameras, but we'll probably use just one.
Right.
So both of us are in the frame, which is pretty cool, I think. I dropped the mic this morning.
Yeah.
But I was able to actually catch it mid-flight.
Okay.
Yeah.
In an earlier episode, I think one of the very first, you said this is one of those indestructible mics.
No, it's not this one.
Oh, okay.
This is the other one.
That's the MB7?
SM58.
SM58. That's the one that like rock stars use on stage and smash it around and
stuff. Yeah, if you've ever seen like somebody like Green Day taking that microphone with the cable and like waving it around like a lasso. Yeah. Not necessarily smashing, but like accidentally smashing it. Right. And then they just pick it up and continue singing and it sounds like nothing happened. Right. So those are the SM58 microphones, $100 a piece, like completely indestructible. That's what people...
Wait, $100?
$100.
Just $100?
But you need an audio interface for that.
Oh, yeah. So total maybe like $700-800.
No, the audio interface you can get like cheapest one probably is about $100. Okay. And the cable, so you're looking at maybe $250. Ronak from our episode about software misadventure. Yeah. I forgot the number of it. He was using a SM58. Yeah.
12-ish, I think, or yeah, episode 12,
I think. Yeah. And also on our very first recording, I think I also used the SM58.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a good microphone.
Yeah, so I guess we talked about the bleed over that's happening. I'm trying to control it.
Trying to control it? Yeah. So checking the checkbox.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because at an offsite, you have to make sure that you use the time effectively.
Yeah.
Productivity, right? So
that's why when is our next meeting?
Our next meeting is, I think, in 15 minutes, but we are running late.
Yeah.
So
let me send a quick text.
That we are running over.
Yeah.
So my previous one is running over.
Yeah. All right. Next one was we were going to introduce our CDO. Boomer, sit. Boomer. Oi, boom. Sit. Good boy. This is our CDO, Chief Dog Officer. Yeah, he loves staying in our podcast. Sometimes he kind of gives us a soundbite or two.
Sometimes he gives us a literal bite. So the funny thing about Boomer is when I came in yesterday, he was always licking my left knee. Yeah. Which kind of felt weird. I told about it to my wife and she's like, he's healing you. Huh? Maybe there's something in there. I don't feel any pain there, but maybe he takes...
Wait, you had that big toe kind of pain or something?
It wasn't right,
Maybe he doesn't know. Boomer may not know about it.
So that's why he licks my left knee.
Yeah. Okay, all right.
Cool. So that part of the checklist is done.
Yes.
Okay.
CDO introduced.
In the interest of time, let's move on.
Yes, in the interest of time.
Wait. What do people say usually?
Exactly that.
Okay. What's that? No, there was some other expression. We are repeating ourselves. No, okay.
Maybe you do that in Google. I didn't hear that much.
In Google, because I now work in the office, so we always use Google Meet, and it had these emoji things. where I think they're public now, but they used to be only like internal.
Oh, okay.
And they had a crab emoji there. A crab means that you keep repeating yourself over time. That was a passive-aggressive, googly way to say that this topic has to end and it's time to move on. It was a crab running across the screen from left to right, right to left.
Like somebody triggers it.
Somebody clicks that crab thing on their interface, and then everybody in the call sees that this person thinks that the person who is speaking should move on and stop repeating the same thing over and over.
Oh my God. I would have somebody say that rather than do that. Like that sounds so bizarre.
It's kind of
very googly, I guess.
Kind of positioned as a funny dorky thing.
Of course, right? yeah. But it's more aggressive than passive aggressive.
Yeah, but I said it to be fair, I said it in a way that kind of makes fun at them.
Right.
I would say for the first 6 months or so, I actually didn't know what it meant. I thought it was just a funny crab.
Why is it a crab? Why is the crab?
Nobody knows. It's some folklore.
Okay.
So I just kept talking while I was like, yeah, people enjoying this because they're sending me crabs. Crabs are pretty expensive dishes, right?
Yeah. Are there lobsters? All right. Okay, so yeah, we quick few updates on what's going on before we jump into the subscriptions. We had our episode with Jason Fried, episode number 28.
An amazing episode.
Amazing. I actually already have heard it twice.
From other people?
No, like myself. Other people have said that they are listening to it or they're like queuing it up for the weekend and stuff like that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just during the interview itself, we knew that it's going to be a pretty good episode.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, this is a great reel.
Yeah.
No, I think he talks on camera so much.
Yeah.
He was really kind of. It was great. I mean, he knows how to say things that are shareable. Right. But I'm, I guess, semi-keen, of course. But generally, he expresses his thoughts very concisely, very clearly. Yeah. And he says them in a way that grabs your attention. Yeah. And I think one thing that we did, which I haven't listened to that many of his interviews, but somebody I know, actually somebody who mentioned in the episode in the beginning, he sent me a note that you guys did a great job with questions because you did not ask him to quote unquote read his book. Right. He said like usually people just ask him questions that are already answered in the book. Right. And like I could just read the book. Yeah. Yeah. And he has a, I think, wonderful way, even if you ask him hard questions or you don't agree with his viewpoint and you ask him something pointed like that, he has a really awesome way of bringing it back, in like basically accommodating your viewpoint into his thought process. Yes. And and it all happens in real time. It was awesome. Yeah, I think there's a lot to learn from him in terms of just how to speak, how to answer questions. I remember when we asked him about Jeff Bezos' investment. Yeah. Because I thought that might get a bit contentious. Right. As in, because, they talk about bootstrapping. Right. But yet they took some money from Bezos. Right. Like 15 years ago. Right. 17 years ago. So I was curious how that's going to be answered, right? Right. And he actually explained the rationale for how that money didn't go into the business, how it was more for them to reduce their own personal exposure and dependence on the business. Yeah. It was such a fascinating answer. One of my favorite parts of the interview. Right. Because it just puts things into perspective so well. Right. Yeah, and like you said, everything that he was saying, like the way he was answering questions, was very genuine, very kind of pointed. Yeah. I also remember one part, you asked him a kind of a 2-part question. Yeah. He was talking for maybe like 3, 4, or 5 minutes about the first part. Yeah. You're doing the active listening again. Oh, yeah. And then he said, sorry, I forgot what was the second part of the question. So he did remember that it was a 2-part question, which was fine that he forgot about it. But he respected it. And then you give him a pointer and he immediately picked it up. Yeah. Actually, our episode wasn't even the best example of, I think, how he does this. I won't name the podcast because
I didn't really enjoy it, but there was another episode in preparing for the Jason Fried episode. We were listening to a lot of different podcasts that he has been on, right? And one of those was the host pretty much going off a checklist, right? Asking questions. There was not really a good flow, or he would ask a question and then Jason Fried would reply, and then like he would immediately move on to a completely different question, something like that, right? And you could sense that there was a bit of like, it's kind of like jumbled together, and there's more stuff to talk about and he wants to talk about it, but there's no time because he's jumping off into the next topic. I thought he did a great job not getting like flustered with this, and like
it's gonna be over in an hour, so
yeah.
I'll just keep doing this.
Cool.
Yeah, cool.
So where
this brings us to actually the good next topic. We have started doing user research studies with some of our potential alpha testers.
We had 3 so far.
We had 3.
Yeah,
we had 3 so far.
And we had like another 4 or 5 lined up, I think.
Yeah, we're actually doing one in person with a friend of mine later today.
Yes.
Here in Vancouver, so which is awesome. Basically, we wanted to see how people use their podcast apps.
Yeah.
And learn from there, but also introduce our app. Yeah. Because these people will be our first alpha testers. So before we prime them on our app, we wanted to see them, as to how they actually do things today. And we prepared a list of questions to go off, which I think the very first meeting we did. We went off a list pretty much sequentially, and we got some answers and we documented them, all its standard kind of UXR stuff. But then the next study, we asked the person to share their screen, and that whole questions thing just went out of the window. We started doing, I think, what's called anthropology study. Well, I guess very close to being anthropology study. So for those of you who don't know what that is, in user research, you can just ask people questions and they give you answers. And then for
example, like what app do you listen to? Yeah. Why do you use that app? What is your most favorite feature in that app? Yeah,
and you just basically go methodically. And I think often is the case, at least in my experience, is that user researchers actually are not domain experts. So they wouldn't be able, in many cases, to have the deep conversation because they just don't know the product deep enough, or the area deep enough, because they're generalists. Many of them are generalists.
That's why such a checklist of questions help.
Yes, it helps. And they rely on somebody with domain expertise to help them actually come up with the questions. I've seen it both at Google and Amazon.
Right.
Which is fair, right? Like, you can't have a researcher working on just one product all the time. There's not enough need. Right. But because we are both kind of domain experts.
We can, because we don't have any other people or money to like get a UX researcher and all that. So
and right now it would be like really wasteful to hire a UX researcher.
Yeah.
So we do this as founders, and we met. The second person we had, we asked him to share his screen, and we just what podcasts do you listen to? Let's just take a look at those. What do you click? And we just observed that in real life.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing there is you still want to keep in mind what you want to get out of this.
Yeah.
And go back to your question list and actually see if anything, there's anything you missed while following them, like in a kind of this haphazard random way. But I think the anthropology study really gives a good understanding.
Our CDO agrees, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if everybody heard or not. That's our CDO.
Yeah, he's moaning.
Yeah.
He's also walking here, by the way.
Yeah, he's like, "Are you guys done? Can we go?" Yeah.
Yeah, can I lick your knee?
Yeah. But yeah, I think the questions are really a guardrail for you to not forget to ask about these things. But I really love the anthropology way because it takes the conversation to maybe some unplanned it meanders around a variety of topics, but you get a lot more honest feedback. Well, not even feedback, facts
It's just facts because
Yeah.
because what people say they do and what people do might be different.
Yes.
It was really interesting observing our third participant.
Yes.
Like she was scrolling so fast.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wouldn't even I would have to reconstruct where she actually pressed.
Right.
Because it was just happening too fast.
Right.
But it was good to observe how she's doing this because like it was so clear there's nothing
Like she's not reading the episode titles or descriptions. It's her machine learning algorithm in her brain is like finely tuned to pick what she wants.
Yeah, she's listened to podcasts since 2009.
Yes.
And so she had some extreme pattern matching ability that she developed in those 14 years. Right?
Yeah.
And that's why we couldn't keep up because it just wasn't obvious.
Yeah.
But I think what it also shows is that's how she operates.
Right.
Which means it's not like assume we ask her that question in person, in writing, right?
Right.
And she'll be like, "Oh, first step I do this, the second step I do that."
Yeah.
Because she would be forced to do what we ask her to do.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas in kind of the observation, she just does what she does, and maybe the steps are completely different.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't even think about them as steps.
And we definitely wouldn't have come to know how fast she's doing this if we had asked this question.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So.
And also, what we also saw with those three people, and also the two of us, so we have a sample of 5 at this point.
Yeah.
Is people have their own idiosyncratic ways of
doing
things. I mean, the only thing that is common is clicking the play button.
Yeah.
Everything else, like 5 people, 5 sometimes like almost orthogonal approaches to, let's say, picking up the new episodes. Sometimes similar but different. And like for us building a podcast app, we obviously can't be great for everybody. We need to pick our battles. But some of those things you could see, okay, so actually you can make it work for both pretty well. But if you don't know that the other one exists, then you will just over optimize for what you do, for what you've heard. And I think this also brings us to the topic of just the importance of early user research and early user feedback. And once we get our app to them, that's when the feedback will come over. Because right now we can show them everything about the app, but until they start using it, until they start like figuring out what really works for them, or maybe like find it useless, we don't know, right?
Yeah.
And only giving it to them, that's when we discover that.
Yeah. And like I think we have one more feature to add, like favorites. And then we have to rename the app because everything is in my personal accounts right now. And then we're off to the alpha.
Yeah. Well, actually, what was the original name of the app and the company that you want to use? I think we can talk about that now.
Sure, yeah.
We're not using it anymore.
Yeah. Orca Pod.
Orca Pod.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was like a code name.
Yeah.
And why is it Orca?
People who know me, I think, know that I love orcas. But
who listens to this podcast.
Yeah. They know that I love orcas. But also, orcas are social animals that rely heavily on information being passed through the pod, right?
Yeah.
Of a collection of orcas, basically families. They are matriarchal ones.
A collection of orcas. A set of orcas. Ordered set of orcas.
An ordered set of orcas are called the pod, right?
Yeah.
And of course, podcast, there's like a play there already. But also they are heavily reliant on like making their own noises, communicating through sounds, and passing their information from generation to generation. Casting their noises through their pod.
It's so funny how we humans assume we are more intelligent and we call their communication patterns noises.
Right. Yeah.
maybe they're much smarter than we are.
Yeah. So yeah, it was Orca Pod, podcasting app.
How did we want to name the company?
What was that? Orca Labs.
Orca Labs.
Yeah.
And then we went to register it.
And we found out a Norwegian company.
I think the Norwegian company is something else because it's in Norway. But there was a company in the US that does some kind of aquarium thing.
Right.
like actual.
So it was already taken.
Yeah, some actual
way.
physical thing that is related to like actual fish and sea life.
Right.
Yeah, that name was taken, and we were like, okay, so we got a scramble, and we will not disclose the name just yet. But
right.
Yeah.
You may know it already, but we won't disclose it. Okay. But yeah, we had I think our first app. We should keep some of those error screens and all that like for posterity, because there's literally orcas jumping out of the water and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And saying things like whale, whale, whale.
Let's go to the subscriptions topic because
we don't have much time.
Because we are running.
We need to run to the next meeting.
Yeah, we need to run to the next meeting.
Yeah. All right. So I think we wanted to talk about it like 3 episodes ago. We haven't made the time for it. So finally it's time. I think we wanted to start with what are the subscriptions we use for this, like creating and producing and managing this podcast.
But also for the company, right?
Yeah. So let's start there and then we'll, yeah.
I think just to set some context as to why we want to talk about subscriptions, I think we've always, I guess more recently, I think we've been kind of annoyed with some of the subscriptions that we have to pay for. And I think the final kind of turning point for me was of like from sort of accepting subscriptions to like completely disliking not most of them, some of them. So I'm using this tool called Canva for editing, the podcast covers, the YouTube images. So we use it once a week to like basically type different text into a template, drop a photo, and like be done with it. So it's like I literally spend 10 minutes a week on this.
Mm-hmm.
This thing costs, I think it's $12.99 for personal use or $14.99 for like team of 2, which I find excessive for what it does. And the only reason why actually we would pay for this is to make those images transparent for YouTube covers, because it's really cool. So right now we haven't paid yet because we are on a free trial. I also used it previously. I needed to use some custom image that they had, and actually they had a micropayment there. You could pay $1. I mean, you can get all of those for free with this subscription, or you can pay $1.99 and just get that particular image. And
you would rather do that, right?
And I actually did that. So I paid a couple of bucks for those images, and I'm like, okay, that's great. Actually, it makes much more sense. I consume this, I pay for this. So it's like you don't buy a subscription for like drinking coffee every day, right? You pay for it whenever you want, and you can get some discounts if you buy like a lot, right? And that's how I feel like some of the software should operate. Because Canva for us is not a required tool. We could do this all without Canva. Canva just makes it a bit simpler, but still like $15 is too much for what we get out of it. But there are some other tools, like Squadcast we're recording on right now. We're paying $40 a month on it.
Yeah, and that's actually very useful. Like we could not do this without.
We cannot do it without, right?
Yeah.
And I think Riverside is slightly cheaper, but like, we were just so used to Squadcast, we'll support kind of a small company.
We also had the founders on our show in episode 8.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, we are cool with that. Or Descript, we are paying $30 a month for Descript. It helps us. It saves us a tremendous amount of time to begin with. And second, it allows us to do those video reels with transcripts, and also they look nice. Like the alternative, you would have to pay for Final Cut Pro or whatever those other.
That's like $500.
Yeah, Adobe Premiere. Yeah, I think Final Cut Pro is like $200, $300, $400. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's expensive.
Yeah,
right. And also, like we wouldn't be using those capabilities nearly as much.
Yeah.
Well, like Adobe Audition, I think it's like $30 a month or something. Or not Audition, what is that? Premiere.
Right.
And Descript, you get the editing of audio, you get the editing of video, you get all of those transcripts and reels.
And now we also just use the studio sound feature a bit to produce the sound, right?
Actually, I don't anymore.
Okay.
I use it for video. We can keep it for another another time. It's good, but I would say I found a way to make it
not up to your standards.
Not up to my standards. Yeah. for video it works. For audio, there are better ways to do this as long as you know what you're doing and you have spent $500 on another suite of software.
Right.
On Isotope.
I mean, I think generally speaking, I love the convenience of subscriptions, especially on my phone, where I can just tap something. I don't need to enter all the credit card information and all that and say like done. However, there is a like subscription epidemic, right?
I think it's a worldwide phenomenon. So
Yeah.
It's a pandemic.
And it's not just us. Like you go to any social media, you'll look up this topic and you'll see lots of like great points about it. One of the worst subscription models that I absolutely hate right now is car manufacturers. I don't know if you've heard.
No.
So car manufacturers, I think BMW is your favorite car company, not mine anymore, apparently. They have started, so they would ship with all the required hardware, but to turn on some specific features like heated seats. Okay, so the car is already equipped with heated seats, but to turn that on, you have to pay a monthly subscription.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, yeah. It's crazy, but they have already tried it out. I don't know about the success rate or not. But that's just like going beyond, yeah.
I think it ventures into the realm of being
Greedy.
almost unethical.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like borderline, I guess. It's just as long as if you know how they do this,
Yeah.
it just feels wrong.
Yeah. And it doesn't like when you turn on your heated seats, it's not like there's some backend service that is being sent requests that you have to service and it's costing you anything at that
There's
point.
like zero operating cost.
Yeah.
So it's only capital expenditure that they put into making those heated seats.
Yeah.
Which
It's there in the car already.
technology probably hasn't changed for 30 years.
Right. Yeah.
But isn't Tesla doing the same thing with autopilot?
Autopilot is a one-time payment.
Okay.
It's not
It's
a.
like $6,000 or something.
It's quite
It's
expensive.
very expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's very common in cars though, right? Like you buy features and I'm okay with like when you buy the car, you decide, or maybe even later on, you decide, okay, I want autopilot and I want to buy it. Sure, one time. This like the car already shipping with hardware that doesn't cost anything extra to use,
Yeah.
but you're charging a monthly subscription for it. That just like is ridiculous.
Yeah, then you may start thinking like, do I really need to warm my butt?
Yeah.
Like, is it really worth $10 a month?
Yeah. Maybe I need it only in January and February.
Yeah. And then you start, but it's an annual subscription,
Right.
or like a 3-year plan or something.
Yeah. Anyway, but there is definitely a subscription epidemic, and this is really attractive to companies because it gives them a very predictable recurring revenue.
Revenue stream, yeah.
Yeah. But okay, yeah. Let's talk
I
about.
just realized when we moved to Florida, so we brought the car from Seattle to Florida, and I have heated seats.
You don't need them anymore.
Luckily, I also have actually ventilated seats because it's that brand that you just mentioned. But we paid a few $1,000s for that whole kind of package up front, which has all the kind of the heating and ventilation and actually massage in the seats, which is
Nice.
it's kind of useless, but it's nice. So it's nice to turn it on every now and then. But it also has the heated steering wheel, which it was extremely useful in Seattle.
Yes.
And like Florida, I wish it were like it was able to
Gone.
cool the wheel.
Yeah.
But if I could pay less a month to like cancel the steering wheel subscription, but still, I think it all comes down like. I think that whole thing that we paid for with all of the, heating and I think it was like a panoramic roof and all that stuff was probably a few $1,000s. I think it was called like the executive package or something, which includes everything. That's what I like actually. Because we looked at another brand when we were buying the car and they're like, you have to pay for like the power windows.
A la carte.
Power windows, it's a very expensive German brand, by the way. But then you would pay like almost as much in options as you pay for the car itself.
Right.
And it goes like over $100,000.
Right.
And you were like, seriously? Like Toyota doesn't do that. It costs like $25,000.
Right.
And it has all of that already included. So,
Right.
But I think at the end of the day, it all comes down like capital expenditures versus operating expenditures. Like, is it cheaper for me to pay BMW, whatever, $50 a month and get all of those features?
Yeah.
And then if I use the car for 3 months, for 3 years, I end up paying like
Less.
$3,000 versus, let's say, spending $7,000 on all of those features up front. I think this is where that calculus starts to make sense.
Right.
But if you want to keep the car for 10 years,
You're probably better off buying that.
you're
package,
better off
yeah.
buying the whole thing. So I think it will be an
The
option.
question is though, it's not an option anymore.
What?
That's what really bothers me is if you want heated seats, you have to do the subscription.
I think Adobe has done something like that actually. I remember listening to this podcast. I forgot the name of the guy. He was the CPO of Adobe.
Yeah.
He was the founder of Behance or something.
Binance, yeah.
No, Binance is a crypto thing.
Right.
Behance was like a community of creators or something.
Okay.
Then Adobe acquired them, and I think he became the CPO. So he was talking about the transition from one-time license fees, which would be like you pay like hundreds of dollars for Adobe products, to the Creative Cloud thing that they have, which is probably 20 is probably the cheapest, 25. Right.
Yeah.
And I remember like that was the time and point in time when I stopped using Adobe.
Right.
Because I don't use it enough to pay
a monthly
month.
Yeah.
But I can shell out, let's say, $60 for Lightroom one-off,
right,
and use it for the next 3 years.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're really running late for our next meeting with our CDO.
Can we reschedule?
Yeah, no, the CDO doesn't accept reschedules, unfortunately.
Physical limits, I suppose.
Yeah. and we really have to run for that meeting.
Oh, we got to wrap up. That's what they said.
Yes, we got to wrap up. Yeah. So, yeah, do you want to talk about the subscriptions we have right now?
Yeah, I think I already.
So Squadcast, Descript, we already talked about it.
Yeah. I think we got a bunch of one-off actually purchases like Isotope and other things.
Yeah.
Which I'm super happy with.
We use Calendly. We are on the free plan right now, but it only allows you to connect like one calendar or some restriction like that. So what Ilya ends up doing is if he has a like dentist appointment, let's say, right? Then he would put a blocker in my calendar. And so, yeah, I know when all of Ilya's dentist appointments
because of our time zones and because my calendar is mostly empty, that works for us.
Yeah.
So if I had kind of, if we're on the same time zone, I think we would have to actually pay for this. Right. And also, it's another thing. Like, I think it's $8 a month.
Yeah. Per person.
Per person.
Yeah.
I don't think it's worth it.
No.
That's the problem. Like I would pay 50 cents per scheduling meeting. Yeah. That's probably way more than they get.
Usage. I think you're talking more and more about like usage-based pricing.
Yes.
And OpenAI, for example, with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
They do that. I love that feature because I think there is an option. They do have that option that every month you could do, I think, $20 and get like a subscription, or you could do usage-based pricing. And I use it quite a lot. It costs me maybe like $7.449623 or something.
So less than 20.
Less than 20, yeah.
What if you go over 20? Will it be capped at 20?
I don't know. That would take a lot of ChatGPT usage, I think. Okay. I have not gone there. Yeah.
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 And so we also pay for Google Drive personally. I mean, both of us pay for it personally.
And you have been trying to get Google Workspace set up for like a week and a half now, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to get on the Google for Startups program, where it gives you the Google Workspace for free for a year with a bunch of other credits. And the thing is, like, you should not have a Google Workspace set up in the last 31 days for them to give you the free one, which is why we haven't set it up yet for the company. We don't need it, frankly, right now, but it would be nice to have.
Yeah.
And Google, being Google, like, we got a response a week later after submitting the form that something was incorrect, even though everything.
And what was incorrect? Like some email address or some domain?
Yeah, like email address, domain, and
it does not match what you said in here or something like that. But it actually does match.
It actually does match.
Yeah.
Or there's some nuance that I'm not understanding.
Yeah.
So I sent them a response. It's been 2 weeks. I sent them a follow-up a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Still no response. I guess listen to the latest Rework episode called the Google Graveyard.
Yeah.
That puts a bit of perspective about how Google works.
Right. Actually, one last thing, even though we're running out of time, I'll add this. Yesterday, you and I were talking about this. So why Google's culture is like this versus why Amazon's culture is different. And the thing that we were talking about is it probably starts right from the very beginning of the company, which seeds its DNA. With values. And so, for example, in case of Amazon, it was a book shipping business in the very beginning, right? So if a customer complains or says like, hey, where's my book? You have to have all of that tooling, built to detect like at what step of the process did we fail.
Well, in fact, if you don't have the tooling, you can't even ship the book. You
Right.
can't accept the payment.
Right.
Right?
Right. It's like every transaction is important to you at a almost personal level,
It's
right?
like-
You care about that customer
Yeah.
deeply.
And it's like, and you have the account, like so to speak, accounting
Right.
of everything that's going
Everything.
on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that goes into the DNA of Amazon's excellent customer service that we know of today. Versus Google, how they started is this massive search engine, right? And you don't really care about exactly who's searching what. You care more about the aggregates and the trends and things like that.
Yeah.
And that shows in the DNA of the company today
Yeah.
in the customer service.
Right. Yeah, they're not used to dealing with customers.
Yeah.
Like they want,
Not individuals.
they want to automate dealing with customers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas Amazon, like you said, every single interaction with the customer, I would say business interaction. I don't know if the right way to put it, but there is always money involved.
Right.
Right. I mean, there are probably other things like Alexa and all this stuff, but like the core business, the Amazon.com, the shopping thing, the AWS, like you always pay.
Right.
So there is always money involved, and when there is money involved, you have to
Care about the customer.
care about it, right?
Yeah.
Like how many times a package would be like lost because USPS lost it or they delivered
Yeah.
it somewhere else. Like it's not Amazon's fault at all.
Right.
You just send them a message, and sometimes, and that's another thing, right? Like try to call some other companies. You will never be able to get through the automated
Right.
response system.
Right.
Amazon, even if you get a chatbot,
Yeah. The chatbot will let you like
Ch-
get a
if
human.
it's below a certain amount,
Yeah.
it just gives you the money back. It's
Right.
actually more effective than human.
Right.
It's actually one of the it's the only chatbot, I guess, that I actually really enjoy because I'm like, hopefully we will just stop it there. He will just
Right.
give me the refund. I don't know why I said he, but the chatbot will give me a refund.
Right.
And then I don't need to deal with the human.
Right.
But then if a human comes on board, it takes a few more minutes and they'll be like, I'm sorry to hear this. Here's your refund or
Yeah.
sorry about this, even though it's not even their fault.
Right.
And then that's why I'm spending thousands of dollars on Amazon and Whole Foods and all every year, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So with that amazing 3-minute reel, let's close this episode. We have coming up next week. We are actually recording here.
Yeah.
Two pretty awesome people. We won't name them, or will we?
Unless it gets cancelled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but so there's a cool startup called Startup Therapy. So
That's the
cool
podcast.
Podcast called
Yeah.
Startup Therapy. Is guys Will and Ryan. They run startups.com
Yeah.
website and the community of founders.
Yeah. Serial entrepreneurs
So,
and
yeah.
pretty successful, massively successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their podcast is really, really good. I've been binging on it.
Yeah.
They talk a lot about bootstrapping and VC and all
Yeah.
that. It's very, very good. So
Yeah, that episode that you shared with me, that's so insightful. And I kept like, even though it's a podcast medium, I think I was actively listening and saying like, yes, that makes sense. Yeah. Even while listening. Yeah. So,
So I know why it's difficult for you to change your behavior.
yeah.
So that's going to be on your annual review, man. Your matter of fact, your rating. So
Things to improve on.
You shouldn't say this out loud because,
Yeah. Things to improve on. Yeah. What grade will I get?
It's your room for improvement.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's called why bootstrap companies, or are bootstrap companies less valuable than venture-backed companies?
Yeah.
It's a
That's
45
the
minutes
episode. Yep.
I think I'm going to listen to it second time.
Yeah. It's
an
so
amazing
good.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have them next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So unless something gets cancelled or rescheduled, we'll have them. So I'm really looking forward to getting their wisdom.
Yeah. And then after that, we have a really special person, but we'll talk about that later. We'll keep it for, yeah.
Very special for a specific subset of, like tech people.
It's so relevant that if we name that subset of tech people, I think you will know who we are talking about. So we won't even name them right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool.
All
right.
And with that, where can people find us?
Oh, yeah. Metacastpodcast.com. If you like this episode or you want to talk about your podcast listening habits, anything in the podcasting domain, drop us an email at hello@metacastpodcast.com.
Yeah, if you want to be part of our private alpha for a new podcast app, also send us a note.
Ilya has started doing like episode specific t-shirts now. So if you want to buy a t-shirt and fund us, do that. He's wearing that. I'm wearing one of Ilya's previous t-shirts, by the way. It's called Copy Pasta Engineer. I love this shirt. Yeah. It's me.
I have this t-shirt as well, but I left it at home.
I think you need to make a new one called ChatGPT Engineer.
ChatGPT Engineer.
Yeah, because it's not copy pasta from Stack Overflow anymore.
Prompt Engineer.
Prompt Engineer, yeah.
I heard a joke about somebody I know. He made this reel. It's in Russian, so we won't share it. But like, it's like a child talking to his, I think, grandparent and saying that like these days they just copy code from ChatGPT, and he's like, no, you can't do this. And then the dad of this child, he's like, no, but they are like manually typing it from ChatGPT into their ID. And he's like, okay, yeah, that is fine. But it just made me think how like we learned from books previously, and actually we did type code snippets from the
books.
book.
Oh, that was so painful.
But I think it also facilitated understanding of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I think finally, Ilya, like he said, he does a lot of reels and stuff on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. So find us on all those places. Give us a like.
Yeah, make sure every time you see our content, just like it because it helps with signal boost.
We think it helps.
Even if you don't watch.
We think it helps. We don't know if it helps, but yeah, sure.
Well, but here's the thing, right? Our reels that we share on LinkedIn, some get like zero impression.
Not zero, but very small.
Like 100, 200 impressions.
Yeah.
And usually those have no likes at all.
Right.
But then when you have some engagement,
right.
Those could get like 600-800 views.
Right.
And Jason Fried one, like it's less than 24 hours. It's been at 8,000 already.
Right.
But there was quite a bit of engagement going on there.
Right.
So yeah, engagement is good. Help us game the algorithm.
All right. And with that, hasta la vista.
Yes.
All right.